I'm just going to fire this up and test this out and see how it works. What if you're trying to practice at home? One of the biggest problems people have is the fact that they do have to buy like 30 bottles of booze and they have all these things open all the time at their house, and they feel frustrated because they've spent all this money and they want to get to like understanding how to make a drink without having to spend like $500 or $1,000.
In any hobby, you're going to have to. I mean, if you want to learn how to make furniture, you're going to spend a lot of money. If you want to learn to sew, if you want to learn, it's just you're going to have to waste money to get good at any pastime that it's worth it. I would think.
Well, I think doing what Thad suggested too. Just pick one drink. You just got rum, lime, and sugar.
Yeah.
I mean, most enthusiasts try to work through a whole cocktail book, or they want to make as many drinks as possible.
The question of scale.
Every time I have a party, I make incredibly gimlets, daiquiris, something like that. Something simple, something thematic. And I don't know, the simpler the drink, the more control you have over each of the components. And that's the successful cocktail making is, to what extent are you in control of each component, and to what extent is it the best version of that component it could possibly be? The base spirit, the citrus, the sweetening component. Is your glass cold? Is your ice large and hard and cold? And so the more, like when you're making drinks at home, I'm sure you're the same, although you make really complicated drinks at home. In like burgundy glasses. But yeah, the more complicated the drinks get, the worse they get at home, because your ice is melting and you don't have a bar back.
But don't you feel like if you're making a very simple drink, then it's even more important to have those things down? Like you can get the flaws out of a more simple. Or you can more easily see the flaws from a simple daiquiri than you can from something with 7 or 8 ingredients.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to.
Everything that steps on itself. So I mean, the simpler drinks, even just whiskey or brandy and vermouth or something like in some of the oldest recipes, where it's just like, oh, we've got a whiskey vermouth cocktail, and this is simply all they called it. And it's just those two things. It's like it really puts a premium on like how are all those two ingredients playing together. And like for a sour drink, where are your limes coming from? How thick is the skin? Is it a bitter lime? Is it a sweet, juicy lime? What type of sugar? Is it refined? Is it raw? What type of rum? It's like the simplest things are the ones that show the most range and subtlety. Like if you take 19 things together and just put them all together into some soupy mess, it's like it doesn't really matter. It should matter.
I think that one of the biggest problems that people have is they always want the best, and they don't want to make a mistake. So when people come to the store to buy ingredients to make a cocktail, they're like, what's the best rye for a Sazerac? What's the best rum for this? Because I only want to make ingredients with the best. I don't want to make it with the worst, obviously. That's,
I think, a problem with just marketing in general, is that we sell the idea to people, our liquor companies, or even food magazines and wine magazines, that you have to have the very best, and there is a very best. Not that there's just a lot of good versions of something and some bad versions and stuff that you like. And I don't think people have to necessarily have that there is a the best.
Well, how would you answer that question? What if somebody comes into the bar and wants, a daiquiri, and since that's what we're talking about, Erik's strategy is he wants it to be the most authentic daiquiri, something that you would get in Cuba, right? Isn't that kind of where you were coming from?
Something that definitely emulates that style. I mean, it's not like that's one of my favorite drinks to drink, and comically enough, it's one that I ask for pretty often. I'd like that rum, and I'd like a daiquiri, because I find it really satisfying. It's just like, I think if you're going to make a drink, if you're going to be introducing it to other people, it's nice to sort of give it the credit of trying to do it the way it was originally intended, and then add variations or make changes to the base spirit, or change it after that if you like. You can't really understand where, as best you can, where something's come from. Why leap ahead by 50 years or say, oh, this is a new thing that we make locally? Like, let's try to get back to the beginning if we can.
It's not like the Rick Bayless approach where he goes to Mexico and then brings it back to his restaurant and tells you how you can make it better. All the Mexican
I
food.
love Rick Bayless.
I love Rick Bayless too.
So groovy.
So all right. So if that's your daiquiri, when you make a daiquiri at Slanted Door, then what do you do? What's your strategy?
Best restaurant bar in the country.
Yeah, best restaurant bar in the country. That's voted at Tales of the Cocktail.
Because best of lists are always true and really necessary. I drink them with La Favorite Blanc, which is not traditional. It's just that I'm pretty drunk and I like 100 proof rum in there, and it tastes really good. But at the Sun and Door, most people are. I'm just showing them that it doesn't come out of a slurping machine and it's not served on a cruise ship. I mean, that's kind of the level we're at. So I'm just looking for something that's going to be brightly acidic and not even showcase the rum so much, which is, I know, the fault, but to just make it balanced and enjoyable for someone who's never had a daiquiri. But I think here at Bar Agricole, where people are down with rum and flavor, I mean, you guys use less citrus and have a more rummy daiquiri.
What about you? Are you the same thing? Are you the same as Eric? Where Eric Johnson?
I mean, I like Agricole rums the most as spirits, and but I think as bartenders, you have a responsibility to be educated and to know the history of a drink you're serving, and I think all three of us feel obligated to feel a sense of duty to the history of a drink when we make it. So I think all three of us would probably agree that a true daiquiri is going to be made with a dry Cuban-style rum and lime and raw sugar, and that's why cocktails are great. Is they're a sense of, I mean, the word daiquiri, it conjures a very specific time and place and the history of the cocktail, which is, early 20th century in a mining town in Cuba where they mixed lime and sugar and rum and ice, and that's it, So what would it have been like then? That question.
So it's more of an authenticity thing, to a certain extent. There's a certain admiration for doing something right, for doing something the way that it was first done, like as if over time, post-prohibition, things have moved away from quality as they've also moved away from authenticity. Or has anybody been able to capitalize and make the daiquiri a better drink than it was? Or do you think that authenticity and quality go hand in hand?
Well, there's 1,000 drinks that are improvements on daiquiris, and they've all been made and named. You know what I mean? So that's.
What would those be? On the spot, right now, name them in alphabetical order.
Old Cuban, Pegu Club, the Pegu Club bar. Audrey Sanders is the Old Cuban, which is basically lime, mint, sparkling champagne, and Jamaican rum. So,
Airmail. There's 7 named daiquiris from the Florida bar in Havana. 1, 2, 3, 4. Go into
Go online and look at a database.
Exactly. What was the one we were talking? The recent one we were talking about? Puerto Rican Racer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Best drink this guy said he's ever had.
Why was it the best drink you've ever had?
I don't know, some bartender from Sacramento told Trevor Easter it's the best drink he ever had, so we're trying to figure out what was in it. So I texted these guys
What makes you excited to make a cocktail, though? I mean, like, for me, when I'm at the store and I have an appointment and somebody brings in new booze, that's about as excited as I can get. But you guys can have that experience, too. For example, we just tasted a bunch of stuff, and you could say, oh, I can't wait to use that, or you can say, oh, I don't like that. But you also have the chance to taste the cocktail after it's been mixed.
I mean, honestly, from a perspective of you and us, we and you, however you want to say it, are in the same business. I mean, we're just recovering from, the genocide, still recovering from Prohibition, which destroyed thousands and thousands of different kinds of liquors. So basically, we're conservationists. You know, we're looking for what we just decided to get that Maletti anisette in, like, because it's an ingredient that shows up. Anisette shows up in a number of drinks, and we always approximate it with whatever, you know, a mixture of absinthe and simple syrup, or so you know, like when Old Tom Gin comes back on the market, everyone gets excited because it's you know, it's like preserving some Australian, you know, wild animal that you thought was extinct and now it's back. I mean, it's really the bars are such an anemic version of what they were at one time. We're still just trying to bring them back to life. So base spirit for us is the most important thing, you know, like what, because base spirits used to be of a certain quality and then they were totally industrialized, and we're all trying to get find base spirits that are authentic and that taste good, that make these recipes from 100 years ago make sense when we make them.
You could look at that from a wine perspective too, whereas there's the idea of the old classics of Bordeaux and Burgundy and Rioja, but then you have people in Australia and in the United States trying to make new versions or new world style, and you have this kind of two schools of thought at the wine store, at least, where there's people like, oh no, I'm all about old world and tradition and authenticity, and other people that, hey, I'm all about big fruit, drinkability. I don't care about where it's made or who made it. I just want it to taste juicy and sweet and soft. And would you say there's that same kind of polarizing thing in the bartender world? Or?
Sure. To me, what Thad said is probably the most important thing about bars, and I think that, you know, Thad and Bar Agricole probably do that in a pure form and better than anyone else. The opposite of that is the guys that are just wholly concerned with creativity, finding out, doing something no one's ever done, putting things together no one's ever put together, and it feels to me sometimes a little soulless, and it's they don't really care about maybe even your experience as a guest or the products they're using as much as them and how creative they're being, and it's like a diversion, I think, from this sense of what that was about curating old ingredients or having a link. And he'd always tell me that it should be a link